Hello everyone, my name is Kat Bowser. I am your resident fantasy therapist and welcome to my channel. Those of you who are returning, welcome back. Those of you who are here for the first time, my name is Kat Bowser. I am a licensed therapist and I'm also an author working on my debut novel, Coexist Division. And on my channel, I like to talk about fantasy, world building, writing techniques, my own personal work, and anything that falls in between. So I'm glad you guys are here. So today, given the holiday of Valentine's Day, I thought we would talk about a trope that we see a lot, and that is InstaLove. And for those of you who are unaware, InstaLove is essentially the trope where two individuals see each other for the first time and they are instantly in love, instantly a couple, instantly a relationship. So for this video, I thought we'd talk about why that doesn't work. I'm going to address this from a psychological point of view because that's how I think. And there are certainly other videos out there who delve into it in a different manner, and I encourage you to check some of those out as well. So first let me address I think where this InstaLove comes from, and in my opinion, I think it has to do a lot with fairy tales, the fairy tales that we're introduced to as children. If you guys grew up with any Disney movie, I think Beauty and the Beast is the longest any of them are ever together. And we don't even know how long that is. Most of the time, they see each other for the first time, and then by the end of the movie, they're getting married or they're going off to get married. And in fairy tales, I think this works because the characters, as a general rule, don't have much of a personality, at least in the original story. And when we watch movies based on the original fairy tales, we kind of give it a little leeway. It's like, yeah, it's supposed to be fantasy. It's not supposed to make a lot of sense. But that's kind of playing on your emotions. So in fairy tales, by the end of the story, we just want to see a happy ending. We want to see them happy. And so we kind of give it a little leeway, like, okay, we can buy this. But when you're talking about stories that we like to see now, where there's a lot of character development, there's a lot of world building, there's usually a lot of great relationships in it, then the InstaLove kind of falls apart. And I'm going to kind of delve into the 3 stages of love, because there's 3 of them. You don't just instantly fall in love. It does not happen that way. And there are essentially 3 stages to falling in love from a psychological point of view. There is the lust stage, what I call the building relationship stage, and then there is the commitment stage. So the lust stage is exactly what it sounds like. This is when you see someone for the first time and you determine that you think they are attractive. And we actually find people attractive for a bunch of different reasons. There are a couple of reasons that are kind of universal across the line. One of those seems to be body symmetry. People who have pretty symmetrical bodies tend to be generally thought of as more attractive. But another thing that our brains do that I think is absolutely fascinating is it seeks out people who have differing genes from you. Most of the time you'll find that people, when they list off things that make a person attractive to them, they're listing things that either they don't have or are very rare in their family. Like a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, I like a guy that has a lot of muscle. I like a girl that has big breasts. I like a guy that has long blonde hair. And most of the time you won't see that prevalent in their families. And the reason is the brain is trying to get us to vary our gene pool. Because the more genes you have in the gene pool, the better off you are. So that being said, what happens when you enter this lust stage? Okay, first off, your brain goes crazy. And what I mean by that is it starts pumping out chemicals like nuts. Adrenaline's one of them. That is usually why you get the butterflies in your stomach feeling. You get the sweaty hands. You get kind of the restless leg kind of thing going on where you can't hold still. And you also get multiple chemicals in the brain being released. Serotonin, which is associated with mood fluctuation, which is why people who have first seen someone, their mood kind of goes up and down, up and down. And then my favorite, dopamine. Dopamine is what I call the happy juice chemical because that is its job. Its job is to get you to do something again. Whenever you do something that the brain wants you to repeat, it will give you a little bit of dopamine because dopamine makes you feel good. And if something makes us feel good, we tend to repeat it. So, as far as our brain's concerned, it sees someone that meets its criteria of what's attractive and it says, okay, this person is a good candidate to mix into the gene pool and give us viable offspring. So we need to start hanging out with this person. So whenever we see this person, let's pump some dopamine in the brain there. And honestly, that's when you get physically attracted to someone. All right, the second stage, and this is the one that I think is missed so much with InstaLove, and that is the building relationship stage. This is where you've been seeing someone for a little bit, and the time frame kind of varies. It kind of depends on honestly who you talk to. I've heard 2 weeks, I've heard a month. So let's say 3 weeks to a month. Let's just kind of average it out here. So you've been seeing this person that you were initially attracted to for a little bit of time. And now what's going to happen is the chemicals in the brain are going to start to decrease because you no longer need the incentive to go around this person. You're doing it on your own. So the brain kind of cuts down the dopamine a little bit. But this is the part where the relationship builds because you get to know the person as a person. You find out what they like. You find out what they dislike. You find out what their little quirks are. You find out what are the things that make them angry? What are the things that make them sad? This is the part where you talk. And this is where so often stories lose me because most of the time there just isn't a lot of talking. There's he's hot, she's sexy, let's bang. Okay. That's lust, but that's not a relationship. I can tell you as a therapist, the number one reason why relationships break down is communication. And that's why I think this building relationship portion is so important because this is where you establish communication. This is where you establish conflict resolution. It's during this stage that you have little bickering arguments. It's at this stage where you have conflicts, things that you discover, maybe there's certain morals you don't agree with. Maybe there's certain holidays that are different for you than are for them. This is where you explore not only who the person is, but who you are in relation to that person. Because you are separate entities. You are not, a relationship is not this. This is a codependent relationship. This is not what you want. A relationship is this. Two people working together, but they are each their separate entity. So when you are building a relationship, in a story, this is where I need to see some of the mundane stuff. I need to see them just going on a picnic. I need to see them catching up with each other and just shooting the breeze. I need to see these people learn about each other. Because when lust dies off, and it will die off, you have to have something left. That's why a lot of times you will hear people say, marry your friend, because you can always talk to your friend. And that's true. With communication, you have to have something to talk about. But if you don't have anything to talk about, you need someone that you have formed enough of trust, enough of a bond with that you can be comfortable with if there's no talking. If you're in a relationship and you can sit next to that person and it can be completely silent and you're totally fine, that's good. That is a great sign of a well-developed relationship. And when you get to that point is when you slip into the third stage, which is the commitment stage. And regardless of its name, this does not necessarily mean that this is where you get married or you move in together. What this means is it's a shift, again, in the chemicals of the brain. And you're not getting dopamine again. The brain's not giving it to you in big gushes anymore. You might get a few pieces of it. But instead it's going to release another chemical. And this one I can guarantee you I'm going to mispronounce. So I'm going to put it in the description below because 6 years of college and I still can't pronounce this chemical right. Vasopressin, I think is how you say it. And you will also hear this called the love chemical, because this is really where the love portion comes in, because this is a bonding chemical. What I mean by a bonding chemical is, unlike the lust chemical, the lust that we had at the beginning, where we want to be together because he's hot, he's good looking, I want to have sex, this is different. A bonding chemical is just a desire to be close to a person and be around them. You will also see this chemical released by mothers and babies. You will see it released by dogs and pets. And this is where what I was talking about, where you reach that point where you can just be with a person and be silent and be perfectly content. That's what this chemical is. And this is what is very prevalent in lasting relationships, is this bonding. Because to bond is to be able to be with a person and not necessarily need any of the quote-unquote sexy stuff. I'm not saying that that's not important in a relationship, it is, but the bonding is the most important thing. And what I often see, especially in young adult literature, is I see lust, and then I see the bonding, but I don't see the middle. And the thing is, without the middle, the bonding feels extremely fake. It feels very contrived, and I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Because bonding takes time. Because bonding will only come if you trust the person. And trust is such a huge deal in relationships. And I will actually share this bit of advice with you guys, because I think it's something that we misconstrue a lot of the time. There is this saying that trust is earned. That's what I hear a lot, especially in therapy, is that trust is earned. So and so has to prove their worthiness to me, and then I will give them my trust. Let me clue you guys in on a little something. Trust is always given, but it is not earned. And what I mean by that is that trust, as a general rule, you're saying to someone, when you give them your trust, you're saying, I have no evidence that you're not going to hurt me, but I'm going to believe that you won't. And that is something that is entirely given from the person. And that is why a lot of times when trust has been broken, it is very hard to get it again. Because now, instead of saying, I have no evidence that you're not going to hurt me, you have evidence that they will. And you're still going to trust them. So the bonding thing has to have trust. And trust is something that usually people do not give it willy-nilly. I mean, you're not generally going to trust someone that you literally just met on the street. It's going to take time. And that's the main thing I see missing from relationships that have InstaLove, is time. Relationships develop and they grow and they shift and they evolve, and all that takes time. If you want to show me the beginning of a relationship, great. Then you can write all the lust you want. That's when you can write the love drunkenness. That's where you can write the giddiness. But don't expect me to buy that this person that this girl just met a week ago is going to be her ultimate Prince Charming unless you show it to me over a course of chapters, books even. I need to see it happen. I'm not going to just take your word for it. And I think the last thing I want to bring up with the InstaLove is I think it's dangerous, because people tend to be very gullible. I mean, let's face it, we are very gullible. We like to, and I think it comes from a good point of view. It comes from a good heart place, but I don't necessarily think it's a good idea to show these young girls, and young guys for that matter, that, you can immediately throw yourself at the first guy that you meet who's good looking, because that doesn't maintain a relationship. That's why I said I think that middle section is the most important thing, and that's building that relationship. I want to see it. I don't need to see all of it. I don't need to see, every single date they go on. But maybe I hear about it. Maybe I see it in motion. Maybe I see them discovering little quirks that they don't like. Maybe I see them starting to use some of their conflict resolution. Like maybe we hear something like, "Oh, Mike doesn't like it when we start yelling. So when I get upset, I walk away." That's the kind of stuff I want to see, because that's how a relationship builds and works. That's what I need to see. And I think you can use this even in a subplot. Honestly, I use subplot romantic plots more than I use straight up romance. And you can show this in little bits and pieces in that. But unless you're literally writing a fairy tale, in that I'm not expected to even really expect these characters have names. I need to see more than, oh, he's hot, she's beautiful, and now we're gonna get married. No. Show me the relationship, because that's how I'm gonna fall in love with your characters. Alright guys, so that's just kind of my thoughts on the InstaLove trope. Seemed appropriate for Valentine's Day. So thank you guys for chiming in with me. I hope to get some more videos up later this week. Maybe we'll touch on world building a little bit. That seems to be a popular topic. Again, as always, if you guys have any suggestions or any ideas of things you want to discuss, please let me know. I love talking about the psychology of writing, of characters, of world building. It's great. It's so much fun. And I thank you guys for joining me. And I hope to see you guys again soon. And until then, I hope you guys have a happy Valentine's Day. And I will see you again next time.